This is some V6 heads that customer shipped in from the UK. I've got 4 of them to do. This head here has the spark plug. One pair of them have the spark plug kind of recessed into the chamber, and this set of them have the spark plug farther out into the combustion chamber. I'm going to go in and fill this area in right in here where I've kind of magic markered it, and tighten the quench up, and we're going to do it on this back side right here. Probably, put something more of a shape like that on it, and we'll fill this in down to the spark plug area here. So all of this area in here like that will be filled in, and over here something like this will be all filled in, and we'll tighten the quench up on it and see if we can make a little more power with it. But this is a project I've got going. I've got one head kind of roughed in. I'll get it finished and show you what it's going to look like, but I have built myself a template here. Actually goes this way, and I use some line-up punches, and this is kind of what we're going to want the combustion chamber to look like when we're done. I've got to go in and fill that in, and I use this as a scribe area. This area over here, I cut it out too big. I'm not going to cut this head out like this right here. So, from this area to this area is going to be what the head is. But the rest of it I got to fill in and taper back down into the chamber. So that'll be what the next video is going to be. On these overhead cam heads, I always clamp them down to prevent them from warping because of the cam tunnel that's built into the head, and that's kind of one of the deals that I like to do. So I'm going to get busy here welding and hopefully get these knocked out in the next week or so. Okay, I've got that one side welded up. I'm gonna let it cool, and once it cools off, go back and weld the other side. I've got a weld in between the seats right here on it. So kind of a little bit of a process, but to get it done right, that's what it takes. So let it cool, come back and weld on it some more. I've got the V6 heads welded, a lot of it anyway, and on this head you can see there's some areas I had to go back and touch up, but I kind of roughed the chamber in, and you can kind of see my scribe line where I've kind of scribed it to make sure I've got enough material to shape the chamber like I want. And a few of these areas I had to go back and do a little work on. You know, this one I've got it. Had to go back and touch it up. I still got to put seats in them. And here's another one. It's just when you do that much welding, you have to go in and go back and do a little touch up here and there on it to make it where it looks right. And then I've got this one here that I have pretty much finished except for the valve job. Got seats in it, make sure everything's working right, make sure the customer was happy with what I've got. But I've got seats in this one, got the chambers pretty well shaped. I've got to go back and do a finished surface once I'm done so I can match everything up, but I kind of have to rough it in to see where I'm at. Got the plug holes. Might have to do a little more work on these plug holes. I'm not quite sure. Got to do a little bit in the bowl area once I get the valve job done, but that's kind of what they're going to look like. I'll get some footage of valve jobbing and probably some footage of putting seats in these three heads that I've got left here to do. But we're moving along on them. Should have them done in the next day or two. I've got the chambers pretty well kind of roughed in on these V6s. I know it looks pretty crude right now, but the template fits real well. I've kind of shaped it a little bit, and I need to go back and get the seats in it before I can do the finish work on it. And once I get the seats in it and stuff, I can finish the chambers and do the valve job. Different pilot here. Kind of have to get it roughed in a little. There we go. A little bit more. check my depth here. Okay, go a little deeper. Just wanting to try to put as much seat in there as I can. So using the calipers is a rough way to get my depth, and then I'll use my dial indicator to do the rest of them. Move my camera here a little bit. All right, measure these and I'll cut some seats for them. I've got all the intake seats cut and in the heads right now. So I'm going to go back and do the exhaust seats just like I did the intakes. And I've got to machine the OD of the seats once I figure out what size I need to go to. And let's see here, I have to change the pilot. Get a pilot that fits a little bit better. dab of grease on it and see where we're at. A little cutting oil. That looks pretty good. One more to cut on this head, and I'll go machine some seats to fit. And I've got two more heads I've got to put the exhaust seats in. That all looks pretty good there. Get it vacuumed off. Measure them with my snap gauge, and I will go machine some seats for this head. I'll be back after I get the seats drove in. Got one pair finished up of these V6 heads. That's what the combustion chamber ended up looking like. Got the valve job done on it. Got the chamber blended in this area here on the intake and exhaust side. Got it shaped pretty much like what I think we need to have. Got it, let me turn it around here. Got the plug hole finished up like I want. It still has a pretty good lip on the intake side, and it has some on the exhaust side. I've got to get with the customer and find out for sure what we're doing there, if he wants me to do it or if they're going to do it when they get it back. The heads came to me ported, so they may want to do that themselves. You know, we tightened the quench up a bunch. I kind of drew on this one with a magic marker. You can see how much we have tightened the quench up on both sides, which I really like a cylinder head that you end up with quench on both sides, and all your burn pattern is in the center of the chamber. I've had some people ask about the quench area. You can get pretty tight with a quench depending on how much rock you have in your piston. About as tight as I have ran a motor is about 30 thousandths. Uh, 28 to 30 is as tight as I've ever been able to get one without the piston actually touching the head. And I don't think that's a good move. It ends up collapsing the top ring land. So you got to really pay attention. 30 is a good number you can probably go off of if you don't have too much rock in your piston, how much piston to cylinder wall you have. So that's kind of that part of it. But yeah, the head is pretty well, this one pair is pretty well finished. I got to do a finish surface on it. Really put a nice finish on it. I've got a few spots where I kind of got into it with the sand and roll a little bit. Not bad. Just kind of a cleanup cut. And it should be ready to box up, or get them boxed up and shipped back to him as soon as I find out what he wants to do as far as this lip goes. But that's kind of where this project is. It's pretty well finished up. I want to thank everyone for watching. Got questions, comments, leave them, and I will do my best to answer them for you.